C.O. Hannah's heart thundered in her chest as she pressed her fingertips to the old cassette recorder, the tiny device humming with the final notes of the song she'd poured every secret hope into. It was 2 a.m. on the rooftop of Hana High, the water tower standing sentinel behind her, moonlight glinting off the railing. Her slender frame trembled with equal parts fear and exhilaration. This melody, these words, were her soul made audible. She replayed the chorus, voice barely a whisper. I've watched you from the shadows. Your laughter lights my darkest days. If courage finds my silence, would you see me through your gaze? A single tear traced down her cheek as she hit stop. She couldn't bear to listen again, not until she knew what would become of this confession in melody. Below, the school grounds lay empty, lanterns dark, corridors silent. No one but the stars and her best friend, So-hee, knew the ache in Hannah's chest, the trembling of her hands when she'd written those lyrics at midnight after Min-jae's laughter echoed in her dreams. So-hee had watched her, curious, as Hannah's pen scratched words in her notebook, lines full of longing, every syllable soaked in shy devotion. Now, So-hee crouched beside her, face lit by the recorder's faint glow, excitement dancing in her dark eyes. I can't believe you actually did it, she breathed, voice low. You recorded the whole thing? Hana nodded, voice small. I had to. What if he never hears it? So-hee's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Leave that to me. I'll post it tonight. Hana swallowed. But anonymously, please. So everyone knows you wrote it. So-hee insisted. You deserve the credit. Hannah's throat tightened. She imagined the world learning her name and her secret. Her cheeks burned at the thought that her classmates, the ones who only saw her as the quiet nerd buried in books, might finally look at her differently. A tremor ran through So-hee's hand as she lifted the recorder. Hana caught a distant flicker of something, uncertainty, regret, but it vanished as fast as it came. Trust me, So-hee said softly. I've got you. If you've ever hidden your true feelings behind a shy smile, keep watching, because tonight a secret song will change everything. Hana watched from her bedroom window as So-hee slipped into the shadows outside her house, the recorder clasped in her hand. Inside, Hana's walls were plastered with posters of vintage anime and equations scrawled in marker, her careful world of logic and dreams. Now she clutched her pillow, breath shallow. Minutes ticked by like lifetimes. Finally, her phone buzzed. A single message from So-hee. It's live. Hana's stomach flipped. With trembling fingers, she unlocked her phone and opened Instagram. Her heart stopped at the top of the feed. A brand new post on So-hee's account, her best friend's. The caption read, My very first original song. I wrote and recorded it last night. Let me know what you think. Hashtag original, hashtag songwriter, hashtag dream big. Beneath, a neat row of emojis and hashtags. Hana tapped the play button. The opening chords, familiar and poignant, filled the screen. Her chords, her melody. She recognized every nuance, every breathy pause. Comments exploded. This is so beautiful. Is your name really So-hee? Amazing talent. You've got to perform this at the spring festival. Hana's vision blurred. She scrolled further, like soared into the thousands within minutes. Hearts bloomed across the screen like wildfire. Her first impulse was rage, hot, searing. How dare So-hee? But it twisted into something colder, despair. The secret she'd guarded, the secret she'd agonized over, now belonged to someone else. Later that night, Hana found So-hee waiting in the courtyard, phone tucked into her pocket, a triumphant glint in her eye. So-hee, Hana whispered, voice cracking. You posted it without me? So-hee tilted her head, innocent as a doe. You wanted me to help, right? I just made it public. Isn't that what you asked? Hana's chest tightened. Anonymously, So-hee shrugged. Everyone knows it's mine now. You hesitated. I shot my shot. Hana sank to the stone bench beneath the cherry blossoms, petals drifting down like pale confetti. But it's my song. So he knelt beside her. Are you going to let fear hold you back forever? This is your chance. You could be the next big thing. Hana looked up, words caught in her throat. She saw the betrayal in her friend's eyes, but also the promise of everything she'd ever dreamed of: applause, validation, Min-jae's attention. A soft breeze stirred the blossoms overhead. Hana closed her eyes and let the petals brush her cheek. She began, voice barely audible. But So-hee was already rising, eyes bright. Come on, I'll introduce you as my co-writer. We'll share the spotlight. Hana nodded, though her heart felt hollow. As they walked toward the bright lights of So-hee's growing fame, Hana wondered, had she just handed her only chance to belong to someone who'd never understood her? And beneath the blossoms, a single petal drifted to ground, an unspoken promise of secrets yet to unravel. Co. Hana watched Lim So-hee from the bleachers during lunchtime, her notebook open but untouched. So-hee sat beneath the cherry blossom trees, phone in hand, scrolling through comments celebrating her debut single. Around her, classmates whispered and pointed, their eyes alight with admiration. Hana's chest tightened. She pressed her fingers to her lips to still the tremor of anger and longing. Across the courtyard, Hana and Min-jae emerged from the school band room, his bass guitar slung over his shoulder. His dark hair fell just above those warm brown eyes that raced over the crowd until they landed on So-hee. Hana felt her pulse catch at the sight of him. Gentle shoulders, the way his lips curved into a ready smile. When his gaze met So-hee's, his face lit up as though that sight alone could fill him with music. Min-jae moved toward her, each step confident, yet carrying a hesitant excitement. Hana's breath caught when she saw him slip beside So-hee and drop to one knee, pulling a small bouquet of daisies from his backpack. So-hee's teasing laugh echoed like wind chimes. Min-jae's voice was soft as he murmured, "For the composer who's stolen all our hearts." He tucked the flowers into her hand. So-hee's cheeks flushed a delicate pink. "Min-jae, you're too sweet." She leaned forward and brushed her lips lightly against his cheek. Gasps erupted around them, and Hana bit her knuckle to keep from crying out. Hana closed her eyes and let the world blur. She could almost hear her song playing again, those chords igniting hope in her chest. But now every note felt stolen, every lyric twisted. Across the courtyard, the boy she cared for pressed So-hee's hand to his chest. She opened her eyes to see them smiling at each other, two halves of melody made whole. That afternoon, in music class, the teacher asked students to brainstorm ideas for the upcoming spring festival. Min-jae glanced at So-hee, then at Hana. Hana's heart lurched at his look, filled with kindness. He was about to speak when So-hee cut in. "I'll perform an original song," she declared, voice bright. "I wrote one called Through Your Gaze. I'd love for Min-jae to play bass with me." Min-jae's eyes widened. "You wrote it?" So-hee nodded, hair bouncing. A song for someone special. It felt right to share it with everyone. Hana's knuckles whitened around her pencil. The class buzzed. "That's the song on Instagram, right?" "I've got on repeat." The teacher beamed. "Wonderful. Min-jae, would you?" Min-jae reflected for only a heartbeat before nodding. Hana closed her eyes, imagining his fingers on the bass strings, tracing the rhythm she composed so late at night. After class, the trio left the music room together. So-hee chatted animatedly about costume ideas for the festival stage, bouncing on her toes. Min-jae listened, rapt, offering to help with arrangements. Hana walked close, but she was silent, trailing behind like a shadow. When So-hee turned to Hana and asked, "What do you think?" Hana forced a smile. "It sounds great." Her voice cracked at the end. So-hee's smile faltered. "You okay?" Hana blinked away tears. "I'm fine." So-hee reached out to squeeze her shoulder. "Thank you for helping me with the demo. I wouldn't have had the courage without you." Hana swallowed hard and managed, "I'm glad." Behind them, Min-jae swung his guitar case onto his back. He glanced at Hana, eyes full of unspoken questions. But then his gaze traveled to So-hee, bright with possibility. That evening, Hana found herself in her hidden practice corner, an abandoned storage closet near the rooftop. She set her recorder on a crate and pressed play. So-hee's voice came through, perfect and clear, followed by the bass line Min-jae had recorded for the Instagram post. Hana's own harmony filled the background, but her heart throbbed with each measure. She hit stop and let the silence press in. The closet was dim, dust motes drifting in the single shaft of moonlight. Hana closed her eyes and imagined Min-jae's touch on the strings, felt the warmth of his presence. She could almost hear his whisper, "You're incredible." But Min-jae would never say that to the author he believed in. Only So-hee wore So-hee's melody. The next morning, the school corridors buzzed with excitement. Posters announcing So-hee's festival performance had gone up overnight. A watercolor illustration of a girl serenading a faceless figure, the title, "Through Your Gaze," in flowing script. At her locker, So-hee hummed softly as she organized her sheet music. Min-jae approached, uncharacteristically shy, and handed her a set of earphones. "Listen to this arrangement I worked on," he said, cheeks pink. So-hee's eyes shone as she slipped them on. Hana watched from down the hall. Min-jae's head bobbed in time, his brow furrowed in concentration. When he finally removed the earphones, his lips parted in awe. "It's perfect," he whispered. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair behind So-hee's ear. She smiled, leaning into his touch. Hana felt a surge of something she couldn't name, envy edged with heartbreak. She stepped back, turning away before tears could spill. That afternoon, Hana sat alone on the rooftop, legs folded beneath her. She clutched her composition notebook to her chest, the pages heavy with unsent letters and unwritten verses. A lone sakura petal drifted past her cheek. Behind her, Min-jae's voice called softly, "Hana?" Her heart jolted. She closed her eyes and exhaled. When she opened them, he stood a few feet away, holding out a folded paper. I found this in the music room after class. I thought you might want it back." He offered the paper with gentle care. Hana recognized her handwriting. The original lyrics for "Through Your Gaze," ink slightly smudged at the edges. She stared at him, heart pounding. "I thank you," she managed, voice quivering. Min-jae tilted his head. "You wrote this?" She swallowed. "Yes." His eyes softened. "It's beautiful." Her throat constricted. She looked away, cheeks burning. Min-jae took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Why did you let So-hee take all the credit?" Hana's fingers tightened around the notebook cover. She didn't answer. Silence stretched between them, heavy with truth unsaid. That evening, as Hana lay in bed, she replayed Min-jae's words like a promise. The world beyond her window was alive with possibilities. If she could only find her voice again. Somewhere in the distance, cherry blossoms trembled in the breeze, petals whispering of second chances. CO Hana pressed her back against the cold brick wall of the rooftop stairwell, shoulders trembling as she lifted the recorder to her lips. The moonlight filtered to the barred window, casting long shadows that mimicked the hesitancy in her chest. Tonight, she would sing the song once more, this time not for an audience of one, but for herself. She needed to hear her true voice, untainted by fear or betrayal. Clearing her throat, Hana began softly. "I've watched you from the shadows. Your laughter lights my darkest days." Her voice cracked on the first line, but she swallowed the tremor and continued, each word a fragile step toward reclaiming what was hers. Beneath her, the recorder captured every breath, every quiver in her tone. Suddenly, a low whistle cut through the silence. Hana froze, heart leaping as she turned to see calm Min-jae leaning in the doorway, bass guitar case slung over one shoulder. His brow was furrowed, concern etched into his features, yet his eyes shone with wonder. "Hana," he whispered, stepping forward until the recorder sat between them like a silent confession. She closed her eyes, heat flooding her cheeks. I wasn't expecting anyone." Min-jae shook his head, voice gentle. "I had to know if it was really you. Hana's throat constricted. Why would it matter? He reached out, fingertips grazing her hand. Because your voice, it's different from the recording on Instagram. I've heard that one 1,000 times. Thought it was So-hee's. But this is you. Her breath caught. Min-jae lifted the recorder and pressed play. Hana risked a glance as her melody filled the stairwell again, raw and unpolished. Every lyric imbued with the weight of her secret longing. Min-jae listened, eyes closed, body swaying with the rhythm. When the song ended, he stood in silence, then whispered, "This is the real song." Tears blurred Hana's vision. She opened her mouth, desperate to reclaim her truth, but doubt curled in her chest. "What do you mean?" she managed. He set down his guitar case and knelt beside her. "I want to believe it's you. I've been trying to understand why I feel this connection, but it's different hearing you sing without the perfect polish of So-hee's recording." Hana's heart thundered. So she posted it as her own. She? Min-jae stood abruptly, anger briefly flashing in his eyes. He strode to the window and stared out at the sleeping schoolyard. When he turned back, his expression was mournful. "I feel so betrayed, but you're the one I care about." Hana's chest constricted. "I'm scared. What if she—" He crossed the room in 2 steps and took her hands in his. "Then we'll face her together. If you've ever had your heart stolen by a secret melody, stay with us, because the next moment will shatter everything." Min-jae's words echoed like a promise as he guided Hana down the dim stairwell toward the music room. Outside, the halls were silent, lockers standing guard like mute witnesses to their clandestine meeting. Hana's palms sweated in his hands, yet his warmth steadied her. Inside the music room, instruments lay scattered, keyboards, drumsticks, empty microphone stands waiting for the next performer. Min-jae set his bass against the wall and slid a chair beside the grand piano. "Play it for me," he urged softly. Hana perched on the piano bench, her fingers hovering above the keys. She glanced at Min-jae, whose gaze was fierce with loyalty. Drawing a shaky breath, she pressed the first chord. Her voice soared through the room, melding with the piano's timbre in a way she had never dared in public. Every note was a testament to her courage, every lyric a confession laid bare. Min-jae closed his eyes, letting the music flow over him like a tide he never wanted to end. When she finished, the air vibrated with unspoken truths. Min-jae opened his eyes, his gaze locking onto hers. "That was incredible." Hana dropped her hands into her lap. "Why didn't you ever tell me how you felt?" He stood and walked to the door, pulling it ajar. "I was waiting for you to trust me." They stepped into the corridor together, shoulders touching, allies against the world. The following morning, the school buzzed with talk of So-hee's rehearsal in the auditorium. Posters declared her the headliner of the spring festival, and laughter echoed in every hallway as students mimicked her flawless performance from the Instagram video. Hana drifted past them, a silent observer with a heart heavy as stone. In homeroom, So-hee swept in, radiant in a pastel dress that matched her Instagram aesthetic. She gripped her sheet music like a trophy. Hana's gaze dropped to her desk, knuckles white around her pen. Min-jae slipped into the seat beside her and slid a folded page across the desk. Hana unfolded it to reveal a list of chords and annotations, his rearrangement notes for her song. At the bottom, in neat script, he had scrawled, "Let's make this ours." Hana's breath caught as she met his eyes. He gave a slight nod, his quiet challenge vibrating between them. As So-hee began to outline rehearsal times, Hana realized that the stage was no longer a place of silent suffering, but a battleground where truth would rise. Behind the facade of spring blossoms and pastel dreams, an uproar was about to begin. For Hana, this was the moment to reclaim her song, her voice, and perhaps even her heart. Hana's chest felt as though it were being squeezed by unseen hands as she stood in the cavernous auditorium, watching Lim So-hee's perfect silhouette illuminated by the stage lights. The wooden floorboards gleamed like a polished mirror beneath So-hee's glittering dress, and the rows of seats beyond remained empty for now. Rehearsal was about to begin. Backstage, Min-jae hovered near a cluster of music stands, brow furrowed in concentration as he adjusted the bass amp settings. His fingers drummed anxiously against the knob, as though to steady his own racing thoughts. Across the wing of the stage, So-hee fluttered from prop table to costume rack, radiant and eager, while Hana lingered in the shadows, clutching her lyric notebook to her chest. From the wings, Hana watched So-hee lift the microphone, testing its sensitivity with a trill of practice scales. Every note rang clear and confident, So-hee's voice polished and poised. But to Hana's ears, each perfect pitch was a lie. Each smile So-hee flashed at Min-jae was a dagger twisting in her chest. Suddenly, the door at the back of the auditorium swung open with a sharp crack. Mrs. Park, the drama teacher, bustled in, clipboard in hand. Behind her trailed half the senior class, gawking, curious, waiting to glimpse a rehearsal that had everyone talking. Whispers rippled through the room like wind through leaves. Is this really So-hee's song? She's amazing, right? Hana forced her shoulders to stay still. She recognized some of the students, friends who'd once giggled alongside her at lunch, unaware of her dreams. Now they stared at So-hee as though she were an idol. Mrs. Park cleared her throat. All right, everyone, let's begin. So-hee beamed and raised a microphone. The first bars of Through Your Gaze spilled from the speakers, Min-jae's bass underpinning a crisp drum beat. So-hee's voice glided over the melody, flawless and unhesitating. The audience nodded in time, impressed. Hana's throat constricted. She leaned forward, wanting to shout, "That's my song." But the words caught in her throat like stones. Instead, she sank to her knees behind a stack of folding chairs, burying her face in her notebook. As the song reached its chorus, Min-jae's eyes flicked to the wings. He spotted Hana's trembling figure and flinched. His bass line wavered for a heartbeat, then steadied. He refused to let the rhythm die. When So-hee finished, applause erupted. Hana remained on her knees, heartbeat thundering in her ears. Mrs. Park hurried forward. "That was splendid, Ms. Lim. Truly professional." So-hee curtsied elegantly, though her eyes sought Hana's and found only shadows. After the rehearsal, the students lingered in clusters, buzzing with excitement. So-hee floated through the crowd, basking in compliments. Min-jae stood beside her, sharing the praise, while Hana retreated toward the exit, head bowed. "Lim, So-hee, you're a natural performer. Your voice is like an angel." Hana's footsteps faltered as those words scraped against her heart. She slipped through the double doors into the empty corridor and leaned against the cool wall, inhaling deeply. She could still hear the echo of So-hee's laughter behind her. Footsteps approached Min-jae's. He slid to her side, offering a water bottle. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Hana shook her head. I need air." He nodded, concern etched in his features. "I'm sorry. I didn't know how to help." Hana's lips quivered. "It's my song. I wrote it for you." Min-jae's face tightened. "Hana, Before he could finish, So-hee's voice trilled from around the corner. "Min-jae, there you are. I need your help moving the speakers." Min-jae hesitated, eyes flicking between Hana and So-hee. Then he slumped. "I'll be right back," he said apologetically to Hana, and followed So-hee down the hall. Hana watched his retreating figure, feeling the weight of every silent step. That evening, Hana confronted So-hee in the rooftop courtyard, the same place where her song had first taken flight. The moonlight shimmered on the water tower as Hana's voice trembled with anger and pain. "So-hee, why did you do it?" So-hee stood under the cherry blossoms, arms crossed, lips curved in a practiced half-smile. "Do what? Why did you steal my song? Why did you post it as if it were yours?" So-hee's eyes flicked upward, as though weighing her words. "You know I love music too, Hana. I thought we could share it." Hana stepped closer, fury igniting her words. "Share it? You claimed it as your own. You took everything from me." So-hee's smile widened, chilling in its calm. "Listen, Everyone deserves attention. I gave your song the platform it needed. I'm helping both of us. Hana's voice cracked. You lied to me. So-hee shrugged. I told you I'd post it. I never promised to credit you. You're a coward, Hana. You were too afraid to step into the light. At So-hee's words, Hana recoiled as though struck. That's not true. So-hee's tone turned mocking. Poor Hana, too shy to say what she means. You're just jealous that people adore me. Hana's eyes burned with tears. You're wrong. So prove it. So-hee challenged, stepping closer until their faces were inches apart. Take the stage, claim your song, or stay hidden forever. Hana's breath hitched. Shame and rage warred inside her before she could reply. So-hee turned on her heel and swept down the stairwell, leaving Hana alone beneath the blossoms. The next day, rumors swirled to the student body. Hana had accused So-hee of theft. Some believed her. Others sided with So-hee's polished grace. In the cafeteria, voices drifted to Hana's ears as she sat at a corner table with her notebook closed. Did you hear? Hana's going hysterical. She's just jealous. So-hee's the real talent. Min-jae won't back her up. Hana clenched her fists, nails cutting into her palms. Across the room, So-hee laughed with friends, basking in their support. Min-jae sat beside her but didn't laugh. His brow was furrowed, lips pressed into a thin line. Hana's heart plummeted. Even the boy who believed her now seemed torn. That afternoon, Min-jae found Hana in the abandoned music room, dragging her from the quiet corridor with gentle insistence. Hana, he began. She held up a hand. Don't. His shoulders sagged. Everyone thinks you're lying. So-hee's charisma. She's convinced them you're the jealous one. Now the principal's calling us tomorrow. Hana felt the floor tilt beneath her. So-hee manipulated them. Min-jae ran a hand through his hair. I tried to tell him the truth, but she's so convincing. Tears gathered in Hana's eyes. What do we do? He exhaled and met her gaze. I don't know. They sat in silence, the afternoon light slanting through cracked blinds, dust motes dancing around them like ghosts of hope. CO Hana awoke to the soft patter of rain against her window, the gray dawn filtering through her curtains like a promise of cleansing. Today was the day, the spring festival's main stage, where truths would be laid bare and hearts would find their voice. She pressed her palm against the wet glass, remembering the trembling that had seized her only hours before. A knock sounded at her door. Kong Min-jae stepped in, damp umbrella dripping onto the floor. His eyes were bright, determination shining in their depths. He held out a single white rose. For courage, he said softly. Hana took it, petals cool against her fingers. They walked through the school corridors together, finding So-hee already on stage, adjusting microphone stands with practiced ease. The auditorium lights glowed warm against the gray sky outside. Students packed the seats, chatter and laughter weaving into a tapestry of anticipation. Banners fluttered overhead. Spring Festival 2025, and tonight, Lim, So-hee, and special guests. From the wings, Hana watched So-hee greet the crowd with her signature smile. But today, beneath that flawless facade, something was different. An undercurrent of tension rippled through her shoulders. Min-jae slipped his hand into Hana's for a moment, grounding her. Backstage, Mrs. Park approached Hana, clipboard trembling in her hands. "So, Hana," she whispered, voice tight with pride. "Min-jae and I have arranged you perform after So-hee. Will you?" Hana's heart skipped. She nodded, voice caught her throat, but determination steadied her gaze. "I will." Mrs. Park handed her a spare microphone and winked. "Break a leg." Moments later, So-hee launched into the opening number, an upbeat pop song she composed, every line coded in sugary perfection. The crowd swayed, lights pulsing in time with the beat. Min-jae manned the bass on stage, eyes flicking toward the wings where Hana stood clutching her notebook. As So-hee reached the final chorus, Hana felt her pulse hammer her ears. She took a steadying breath, memories of every stolen chord fueling her courage. When the music ended and So-hee raised her arms to rapturous applause, Hana stepped forward into the light. A hush fell over the auditorium as Mrs. Park appeared on stage and tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next performer, CO Hana." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers awoke anew. The shy nerd? Hana? Really? So-hee's smile faltered. She met Hana's eyes, wide with resolve, and her lips pressed into a thin line. Min-jae joined Hana at center stage, bass in hand. He nodded once, and the opening chords of Through Your Gaze rang out, Hana's melody pristine and true. At first her voice trembled, but she steadied, eyes scanning the faces in the crowd until they settled on Min-jae's warm gaze. The lyrics poured from her lips, every word soaked in reclaimed pride. "I've watched you from the shadows. Your laughter lights my darkest days. If courage finds my silence, would you see me through your gaze?" As she sang, the petals of the banners above seemed to flutter, as though inching closer to catch her voice. Min-jae's bass line filled the air with steady heartbeat, and Hana breathed in time with the rhythm, unafraid. At the second chorus, Hana let her voice soar, stepping forward. The spotlight illuminated her expression, eyes alight with vulnerability and strength entwined. The audience fell silent, drawn into the raw honesty of her confession. Midway, she paused, lowering the microphone. A hush blanketed the auditorium. Hana's chest tightened. She glanced at So-hee, standing at the wing, pale as porcelain. Then she turned back to the crowd. "This song is mine," she called, voice ringing clear. "I wrote it for someone I care about. But my words were borrowed, my voice muffled until now." A murmur rippled through the seats. So-hee's mouth opened, then closed. Hana drew a deep breath and sang the final chorus. "You held my heart in silence, but now it beats in open light. No stolen verse, no hidden name. My truth will echo through the night." As the last note faded, Hana exhaled, legs trembling but heart soaring. The auditorium remained still for a heartbeat, then applause thundered like rainfall, echoing off the walls. Students leaped to their feet, cheering with an intensity that shook Hana's core. Min-jae set his bass aside and crossed the stage in 2 strides. He took Hana's hand, dropping to one knee before her. The crowd hushed at the unexpected spectacle. Hana's breath hitched. Min-jae rose, lifting her hand to his lips. "So, Hana," he said, voice husky, "I've heard your true song and it stole my heart. Will you be mine in truth and melody?" Hana's eyes glistened as she nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. The audience roared, petals emblazoned on the banners, seeming to rain down. So he stood at the wing, face drained of color, mourning the illusion she'd built. But for Hana, none of that mattered now. Min-jae leaned in, and their lips met in a gentle, lingering kiss, soft as whispered promises. In that moment, the music swelled behind them, a triumphant crescendo of reclaimed voices, and hearts united. When they broke apart, Hana's hand found Min-jae's, their fingers interlaced like 2 strands in harmony. She lifted her other hand and waved to the cheering crowd. "This is my voice," she said, radiant. "Thank you for hearing it." The audience rose in unison, applauding until the stage lights blurred, and the world narrowed to the warmth of Min-jae's smile and the steady beat of her own true heart. Beneath the rain of confetti and blossom petals, CO Hana had found her voice, and in doing so had found her own happy ending.